Okay, I have to begin this video with a question because I am just utterly baffled. I mean, we have to just ask this: how is Google, a company that has hundreds of billions of dollars, managing to screw things up this badly? What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and it's time for another Google Stadia dumpster fire. But this time, things are going to be different. In the past, when I've talked about Google Stadia, I've kind of outlined the technical aspects, the issues with frame rate, how people aren't getting their pre-order bonuses. But what's going on today, in my opinion, is way worse because we just discovered that certain games are now breaking on Google Stadia. Yes, you heard me correctly. There are certain games that even if you pay for them, you buy them, you get the controller, and you try and boot it up, there's a chance that it flat out will be unplayable. Now let's get into this. So last night I was up late, just goofing around on some games, being like bad adult, when suddenly I got a text message from my buddy SpawnWave Media that just said, LOL, Final Fantasy 15 is broken on Google Stadia. Now this to me was a shocking statement because I'd heard a little bit of rumblings in the past. There was this weird issue that popped up where apparently people were losing their save files for FF15. If you were playing the game and you were doing things like exploring the landscape, cruising around with your buds, and then you save it, there was a chance that when it went up to the cloud, it would be deleted. Yes, that's right. Even if you put tons and tons of time into trying to level up your characters, there was like a 5% chance that suddenly everything you'd actually accomplished would be instantly and permanently erased. Now, people were mad about this, but apparently Google managed to patch this. What's going on today, though, is really weird because it turns out that the exclusive content is very destroyed. So in case you forgot, there was this funny thing where before Google Stadia came out, one of the things that Google was trying to hype up was that certain games would actually have exclusive content, special bonus features to make it extra incentivizing, right? That gets you kind of hyped, especially for me because I am a Final Fantasy 15 fanatic. I mean, I literally have over 100 hours in just the main campaign and like another 100 hours hunting down all the trophies in the downloadable content. I mean, I have spent a ton of time in this universe. So when I heard that they were going to be adding in this new thing called challenges, I was certainly intrigued. Well, this is very interestingly what is broken. So what's going on here, what you're seeing is actually, this is the gameplay that was recorded by SpawnWave Media. And as you can see, the idea is, of course, that you're driving around this track. You have a monster truck because, Final Fantasy needs a monster truck. But every time you try and hit a tiny ramp or you're drifting around a corner, the physics freak out. I mean, it's kind of funny to see, but his car is flying all over the place, instantly exploding, tipping over if he does even a turn over like 25 miles per hour. And what's so fascinating about this to me is that it's pretty obvious that what's going on here is a technical issue on the server side. Now, a lot of games, what they try and do is they simulate certain things simultaneously. If you're trying to drift around a track, what it's doing is it's calculating your velocity and then also the speed of the ground. Let me show you some stuff like this is me driving along that same track on the PlayStation 4. I just recorded this a minute ago, and as I'm going around the track, you can see that what it's being able to do is because everything is running on the same hardware, it's able to talk to each other. The physics of my car jumping as I drift through the air and making sure that as I land, it's calculating the velocity of each of my tires. That's just some basic game design. But when you try and do the same stuff on Google Stadia, it completely breaks. The game is unable to do any of these processes, which makes me think that this is a fundamental problem that they haven't been able to solve with cloud computing. Now, you may just be saying, okay, Dreamcast guy, that one track is broken, but it's not. It's actually a fundamental issue for all the tracks. So this is Twitter user Noah. He's a nice guy. I've actually seen a bunch of his tweets. He follows me. Seems like a really chill dude. Well, last night, he decided to try and play through all the different challenge modes that are exclusive to Google Stadia and upload some random glitches, and he has a ton of them. But what's kind of fascinating to me is that as you see them play out, you can pretty much tell that it's the game trying so hard to send you data and predict your movements that it's just dramatically freaking out. As you can see here, the other special cool modes that are supposed to be extra great at displaying the power of the cloud are equally messed up. Like, the one that definitely had me laughing the most is, well, there's like a special mode where you get your flying car and you cruise along, picking up different objects off the road to try and get money and points. And while you're doing this, it's funny because so let me just try and enlarge this a tiny bit. You can see that the game itself is trying to load where these items are. This is stuff that's very unique because this is not stuff that was in the original game. These are things that were made from the ground up for Google Stadia. This is stuff that is not designed to be on a normal console, played with a normal controller. This is stuff that's designed for the Google Stadia cloud. And what's weird is that it definitely seems like it's having troubles just trying to render objects, calculating trajectories. It's funny that the more data that's being built inside the cloud, the more it seems to break down. I mean, he actually had some weird problems even with loading. Just playing the normal campaign, this is a very tiny spoiler, but at the end you like drive back to town, and while you're doing this, there's no car. You're just floating there in midair, having a perfect Zen experience. So I want to try and put on my theory hat here and think about this from the aspect of a game developer and try and just speculate why this is happening, because it's pretty obvious that something that's going on inside Final Fantasy 15, this version of it, it's very, very strange because what it appears is happening is that this new content being constructed inside the cloud is basically displaying the problems of predictive architecture. One of the things going on at Google Stadia is that normally when you're playing a game, everything is one-to-one. Your game is constantly trying to go with you. It's loading your frame rates. If you pull the trigger, it's calculating each of the bullets as they leave your gun. I mean, all of this stuff, very, very apparent. That's how video games work. But with Google Stadia, the cloud has to be faster than you. It has to be trying to guess every one of the 1,000 things you could be doing at once because the cloud is so far away. The server needs to have every single microchasm and possible optional choice already loaded. That way they can send it to you so fast that you won't notice that your game console, so to speak, is miles and miles away. But this has now created a new issue, which is what happens if you're flying in a car. Like this. Obviously, your vehicle needs to be soaring through the sky, which means it needs to guess trillions of tiny things. So flying up, flying down, crashing, jumping out of the vehicle with a parachute, dropping all these little items that you're carrying. It needs to try and load all of those at once in a three-dimensional space, and it's pretty obvious that it's starting to break down the system. Even if you're doing things like the race tracks that SpawnWave did. These tracks, they seem very straightforward, but your vehicle can jump. It shows that your vehicle can try and slide around these tracks. And in its effort to try and load all of this, trying to predict all these little microchasms of options and choice, that seems to be somehow breaking down the code. Is this a problem of loading? Is this a problem of processing? Something is clearly deeply and fundamentally flawed about Google Stadia's programming that, to me, this is more than bad. This is actually a fascinating issue that I hope that Google is willing to talk about. This is more than just a patch. This is more than just them saying, oops, we made a little befuffle. No, I think it's pretty obvious that not only is this game completely broken and the special modes literally unplayable, I think it's actually a display of the fact that the limits of the cloud. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that all cloud gaming is evil or that this technology is absolute trash. Instead, I actually just want to say that I think that Google is going about it a completely wrong way. There are actually some programs going on right now with, like, NVIDIA's got a streaming service. Of course, there is the absolutely excellent xCloud service. These are a display of how you do things right. And it seems to me, as somebody who doesn't really particularly like these services, the people who do it the best are attempting to simulate the console experience. It seems like, from my standpoint, the people who are able to get the best results, they're simulating your PlayStation 4 and sending you the data. The more they're trying to be a super PC, but up in the cloud, the more things seem to break down. Stop shooting for the stars because you're just crashing into the sun. You are actually making a worse product by trying to be so dramatically epic. Google Stadia is still a complete mess. It's, in my opinion, it's completely dead now, but hey, I guess we'll still see what's coming next. I'm excited to see what new glitches manage to arrive with the latest updates, the latest freaking madness, but hey, that's just my opinion. What do you think? Have you still actually have a Google Stadia subscription? None of you do. I don't even know why I'm asking that. Please give this video a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Okay, let me just tell you something. I actually recorded this video 5 different times because I kept looking at SpawnWave's car crashing and I was laughing so hard, I restarted. I just... Something about when his car shoots into the sky. I love you guys. Alright, I'm done. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.